But this is the reason why I stopped being an employee and got back into the entrepreneurial world and building my startup. I want to build things. Being employed didn't help. Even when I was employed, I forced my way into becoming something like an entrepreneur in residence. But that wasn't what I was hired for. So it ends up being problematic for both sides. But even though it's financially unstable and risky and worrying, anxiety causing, I take so much pride in what I'm doing. It excites me, it fuels me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Top of the Hunt. Today, we've got a very interesting guest with us who's going to talk about his product and a few other interesting things along the way. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks for having me today. My name is Omer Karisman. I'll give you the very short version. I've been doing software development for close to 20 years now. Along my journey, I also did product management and a few other things. I studied industrial design, so I drove from a lot of different skills that I honed over my career.
So, on your journey so far, this is what's led you to where you are today, and you've started and created a very interesting product. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, Muse Pro, which we just launched on Monday, actually a part of our startup StyleOf. I'll now give you a longer story. It started all back in December. I created an app called Avatars AI along with many others, I'd say. It was quite successful and it helped me meet my co-founders. They were really interested in avatars. They initially wanted to purchase avatars from me, and they also said, look, we have this overarching goal that we want to achieve. Let us pitch you and maybe we'll work together. And I had a sense that we had the same idea about where avatars could go. And I asked them if I could pitch first, and we really had the exact same idea, which is we want to give artists a way to engage with their fans. Avatars, not just in any style, but in a specific artist style. So we started building StyleOf just over a year ago. And along the way, we ended up developing a lot of different technologies, which spun off different products. One of them is GifStar, where you could star in any GIF, basically. The core idea is that there are two things we want to achieve perfectly. We want to capture an artist's style or a brand's image, and we want to be able to capture a person's look and identity. And while we're trying to do this, we've talked to a lot of artists, and the one thing we kept hearing is that the ones who use AI, they want more control. It just keeps coming up. Even today with MusePro, I'll just get there in a moment. They want more control.
Yeah.
Because they want to be in charge. They want to be in charge of creation. They want to draw from the power that AI can give them, but they don't want to give the reins to AI. They don't want to be directed by AI, which is what most products do today. So that's exactly what led us to Muse Pro. We were tinkering with some tools, with drawing and adding more control to AI generation, and it was enabled by this technology called LCM, which makes AI models faster, AI image generation faster, in a nutshell. And immediately we started working on this, which was 4 months ago. Initially, it was supposed to be a small tool that would be part of StyleOf, but we've seen a huge potential to give artists a tool where they can actually use AI, but also have all the control they need in a digital creation tool. That's what has been lacking with all the other tools. Yes, there are now many tools that you can draw and paint with AI, but they feel basic at the level of Microsoft Paint, and which that doesn't make a lot of sense because AI is really powerful, but it needs to be paired with something else so you can actually finish your artwork. You can't just get that generation and put it somewhere. That's not what most artists want, and that's something just it fuels the controversy in the whole AI versus artist thing. We don't think there is a versus here. We really think that they can and they need to actually work together.
Yeah.
which is why the Muse Pro's icon is basically two circles linked. It represents the companionship between the machine and the person.
It makes a lot of sense. I know that with our designer, she comes more from a sort of a logo and a branding background. So we assume, my co-founder, who's a lot more technical, we both assume that she knows how to do every bit of design. And it's all simple and it's all very straightforward. She said, well, no, these things are different, those things are different. And then we've asked her, oh, can you not use like Midjourney for this? And then she's used Midjourney and gives us some images and she's, I don't like them. And like, what do you mean you don't like them? She's, well, the colours are wrong, there's this wrong, I told it to do this, it doesn't do that, I've done this, it doesn't do this. And there's a lot of things that she's complained about. And we're looking and see, we don't have an eye for design, so we don't know the difference. But after about, say, 10, 15 pictures or something that she generated, you start to see the inconsistencies. And I think you've hit the nail on the head with, certainly for her, she's got the skill sets to go and do some great things, and it might take her a day to do it. But with the AI working for her, that might take a quarter of a day, half a day, whatever it might be, which could save a lot of time and enables one talented designer to work as efficiently perhaps as a larger team. Is that what you found most of the people want to do with it?
Absolutely. It's definitely a productivity tool. The vision we have, and with the technology we've been building, the idea is that you'll soon be able to, let's say you're an artist, you have a certain style, a way of creating things, you'll be able to feed that into AI and have your model. And that will just boost your productivity immediately, because now you're going to be able to control your creation quickly. Instead of doing everything from scratch every time, you drew a rabbit in a certain style, but now you want a tiger. And imagine this in a professional setting where a client asks you to come up with different stuff. You get revisions, end up getting a message, hey, how about a panther? And that might throw you into a creation flow that might take days, which really limits the artist's potential. Of course, the creative process is not to be rushed, but what we're trying to make faster is not the creative process, but just getting that vision out of your mind onto the screen, onto something else. So with the likes of Midjourney, they are getting better. They'll keep getting better. They'll try to do exactly what you say. But the problem is when you control the generation with only text, it's going to be right if you compare it to text. Let's say you gave a great example, say a white rabbit on a black horse. Now it might get you a black rabbit on a white horse, or the other way around, the rabbit might be on the bottom. They'll get better at doing this, but it won't look as how you imagined it. You have to add something more. Change the composition, you have to change the angle, the lighting. With words, there are a lot of opportunities. It has an allure. I totally see that. And I think people who enjoy Midjourney or creating generative AI images, part of it is it's like gambling, like a slot machine. You just keep on generating, and eventually you find something that's really close enough to what you imagined, and you feel like you won something, you won a prize. That's amazing. I'm not going to downplay it. It's another way of creative process. But for artists who already have something very specific in mind that they want to create, they want something else. That's what they don't like about AI in general. That's what fuels the controversy from day to day.
I think it's a lovely illustration. The jackpot is a good way of framing it. I think as well as you move over from independent teams and you look at freelancers and other things, yes, they're going to have clients who are pestering them. But when you move up into the next sort of echelon of companies, you're looking at teams who are working with style guides that they've paid a lot of money for. And that process will be incredibly tedious. I know of a company who's spent a long time trying to train an AI generating image model. I don't know what the name was specifically. I know it wasn't Midjourney, but they spent a lot of time training all of their old graphics and characters and everything they've created over however many years they've been in business for. They've uploaded them all and it's coming back and it's okay. It's looking almost like the jackpot, but it's not the same thing. As soon as you put those in front of the brand manager and the people in charge of keeping all of these things in place, they're looking and they're thinking, well, this doesn't cut it. It's supposed to be this, it's supposed to be that, it's supposed to be the other. And it'll take a long time, I think, for Midjourney and other people to try and do this type of thing. I think you've got a solution for quite a large portion of the professionals that they've been aiming for, that they're going to take a long time to hit.
Yeah.
It's great.
One other thing is that when you're working professionally, let's say you were able to get something from Midjourney exactly like you imagined, and you take it to the client and they say, oh, could we move the horse a little bit to the left? Then you have a huge problem, because like you either have to manipulate the image afterwards, and then you start losing bits and pieces of what AI put there. Maybe you're not going to be able to blend it perfectly. Then it just remains as a concept. But if you have control from the beginning to the end, and that's another important aspect of Muse Pro, it's not just drawing to AI generation, but we also give the artists a lot of regular digital drawing tools like different brushes, selection, being able to layer different kind of generations. So you can actually take the whole process from beginning to the end in just one app. And I think that from the comments we've been getting, that adds a lot of value to the whole thing.
I can definitely see that. And I think when you're talking about image manipulation, I'm not sure what happened, but Kate Middleton recently, she had an image that looked like it could have been a photo of her put into a tool, or perhaps she used something to try and edit it. There was a lot of things that were wrong with that image, and she tried to edit it, or whoever tried to edit, and just couldn't quite get it there. And I've seen that before when generating an image and all of a sudden the hand's the wrong way, and you don't realise until you've inspected it 5 times. So I can see how there's a lot of time saved. And I suppose they've got quick concepts down and it'll work. And that might be useful if for your first client meeting, perhaps, you're able to take it with you and say, this is the broad concept of what I want now. Can you go and do it for me? But then still, what does the designer do from that? Upload it and try and redraw it from there and take it. And it can be a very tedious process.
Then AI is not like making you more productive. It adds some creativity perhaps, but maybe it's adding more to your plate. That's the problem. And we've also validated the business need for this. We've had some very famous and large agencies reach out and say, look, we want to have our creatives use this. Even at the executive level, they're seeing a lot of potential, because they know if we give these tools to our people, it's going to make them quicker. We're going to create all the more amazing concepts in the fraction of a time. It's great, basically. The feeling and the feedback we're getting, it's very exciting.
I can imagine, because for them, part of their process will be now they can spend more time on discovery, more time on ideation, and less time on perhaps the early stages of design, which I can imagine would enable them to perhaps run more projects at the same time, which is always a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. As a creator, you probably interface with your bosses, and they also interfere with the interface with the client. There's a lot of revisions and back and forth going on. I've seen that firsthand, and understanding that process really helps us add the right value to the product.
Definitely. From there, would you like to go into your other tool more now?
Yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I really want to mention it because it's really fun. While we were trying to capture the human likeness, the identity, we ended up having a great model that can basically do face swapping. We've been building the StyleOf studio, and one day I said, look, I think I'm onto something here. How about we do GIFs? And the team was just for a moment skeptic. And the other day they were like, we also think this is great. Like, how fast can you do it? I told them, I just want to do this on the side. It won't take too much time. One thing led to another, and we were all hands working on GifStar. We worked really quickly. We launched it in less than a month, I think. And the reception was amazing. Anyone who sees the app just falls in love with it. And the best part is it has a tremendous potential to be used with marketing. for brands, for studios, for influencers. We just happen to have stumbled upon that great idea. Right now, it's gaining traction. And I wanted to mention it because I'm also proud in that the design and everything, it just works so nice. You have to try that. I'll actually create some GIFs for you and send it your way.
Yeah, definitely. We'll put the links for both of them in the description, and we'll link to your website as well. So is that going to be, will that be part of the same StyleOf tool, or is that going to be something that's an independent app? How is that going to work for people?
Right now, it's an independent app. They feel a bit detached, but what we have in our minds is the great vision is they all connect. Because StyleOf wants to capture, as I said, the artist's style, the brand's image, and that part of things, and combine it with people and their identities. So with Muse Pro, we're able to give artists a way to train their models, create amazing things, which leads us into StyleOf, where they can actually give their fans or user bases a way to interact with their style. And maybe the easiest way to put this is create portraits in their style. And GifStar becomes the shop for actually accessing those styles alongside GIFs and images and other kind of videos. So eventually it will all become StyleOf. Right now, since we're small and can't actually undertake the whole thing at once, we try to divide and conquer, so they all live in their small ecosystems, creating a user base slowly. But eventually, we see them all coming together under one roof.
Is that something you're going to be releasing through product hunting places as well?
Do you mean GifStar?
GifStar, yeah.
We never launched it on Product Hunt. We were waiting we wanted to be perfect. Now we feel like it's already launched, but I think it really deserves to be on Product Hunt. And with the experience we got from the Muse Pro launch, I'm all the more confident about launching it. Monday was a very long day for me, actually. If that's okay, I want to talk about that a little bit. Maybe,
of course, yeah.
It would help someone. I got great advice from a few other makers that I interact on Twitter. As a more software engineering oriented person, marketing has never been my strongest suit, and it takes a lot of energy, especially social energy and effort, to make a successful launch. I had to keep posting throughout today, maybe more than 12 hours. And even if your product is great, like, you really have to be on top of it. You really have to reach out to people one by one. You have to keep posting stuff, keep pushing people, keep answering comments, reply DMs and messages. It's a tremendous amount of job, but it pays off. I'm not up for it to do it again anytime soon. Maybe that's why I'm dreading on the GifStar launch. It felt like a lot, but I think it's where we did other launches before. They weren't quite successful, not because the product wasn't successful. And I see that with other people as well. They have a great product which barely gets 30, 40 upvotes because that's their circle. In order to break that, you really have to go out of your comfort zone.
Definitely. I've seen a few companies who have not made the top 15 that ordinarily would have created a lot of hype if it had been posted on Reddit or somewhere. And then because it's been a very competitive day, they've been drowned out by the people who've got the loudest voice. And I know my co-founder, the term I use for it is anti-social, but it's a bit tongue-in-cheek. He's happy to talk to people, but doesn't really like social media much. And I suppose it's a bit like he should really imagine it's just like a for loop. That's what the launch day is. It's just a for, just rinse and repeat 20 times, 100 times, however many it is per day, and then you can get there. But it's interesting. I see a lot of people who have been very technical saying the same thing about social media. And yet you do need it a little bit, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Mondays are notoriously difficult to do a launch because larger companies tend to use that so they are visible throughout the week, which wasn't an easy feat. I actually saw one other launch that day. It was an AI model called Inflection 2.5. They do big things, and that launch was something big for them. It later on got featured on Product Hunt's newsletter, but it barely scratched the surface with the votes, and that didn't feel just in a way. Like we were sitting on number 3, and they were way down. And I know what they're building. It's amazing. Unfortunately, that's not the only thing that makes you successful on Product Hunt.
No, definitely not. You have much of a strategy or any tactics before you launched on there, or was it just on the day, let's go for it?
No, we did that before, and that doesn't work, unfortunately. The advice I got was to build a pre-launch page where you start badgering people to sign up to be notified when you launch. My friends Dan and Sandra on Twitter, they told me to at least get 100 people in that list before, which was really helpful because it gives you a kickstart. Then it's easier to climb to the high ranks. You also definitely have to prepare other groups of people from your friends and family as reinforcements through the day. In our case, look, I worked a lot of hours to get to number 3 on Monday. I went to bed. We were in a safe place. The fourth product was 40 votes behind, and the pace was about the same. I woke up and there were just 4 votes between us, and they were going faster.
Yeah.
And I panicked. I reached out to more friends. I reached out to the same ones from Monday, told them to, like, if you didn't vote, please, we really need this. You really have to be on top of it. Like, you really have to have multiple groups of people that you can call upon and say, look, now I need your help. You have to keep posting everywhere. You basically need to make a list of people, places to post, and be really ready for launch. Otherwise, it just, like, even the best products fail. It's like a different show that you have to run. It's not just, I have a great product, let's go number 1. That rarely happens.
I can see it. I've not heard of Inflection, but I know Claude, they recently won Product Hunt, and they were hunted by somebody as opposed to them being involved themselves. So I think it was more their brand name that carried them across the line, but they came third. So it is a marker for AI products, which yours is and theirs is. It's a good standing to be in the same position as them for a different day. I think theirs might have been a Wednesday or Thursday, though. It wasn't. I don't think it was a Monday.
So what I've heard is Saturdays and Sundays are easier because it's the end of the week, and like most companies don't prefer that. I've heard other people having known hunters hunt their product. They already have a following on Product Hunt, so it helps them. On Monday, the number 1 product, that company was doing their 4th launch on Product Hunt. They already had a huge user base, and they basically defied the trend line. While our voting speed was going down, theirs were going up. So there are all sorts of different strategies. But I think the key point is you be on top of it. And even if you don't get the great result, it doesn't say anything about the quality of the product, basically. There's so many things involved in being there. We also have seen some people, unfortunately, purchase upvotes. Product Hunt is doing their best, cracking down on them, but that also happens. So it's a part of it. Some of them might slip through the cracks, and you might end up not being in the top 3.
I've seen that there's a company who I saw put a lot of work. About a month ago, they first contacted me on LinkedIn and says, "Oh, can you have a look at a product? If you like it, join the wait list for it." And I was like, "Yeah, I had a look, and it was a nice product, and everything was well designed, etc., etc." So I put myself on the wait list, and on the day that they launched, they were second by not very many, but then about an hour later, they seemed to just disappear. So I don't know. And then for the rest of the day, they had pretty much the same votes they had up until that point. So I don't know if they thought to buy some votes or whether Product Hunt thought they bought votes or what it might have been. But something's happened to them. And it's such a shame because it's when you've spent a better part of a month preparing for something, it's a lot of time and effort to not have the reward that they perhaps could have had if everything had gone according to plan. It's a shame.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, you mentioned tracking. So how did you track the projection for your product versus others? Because you knew that they were going faster than you were.
Oh, yeah. So I mentioned Dan, a friend on Twitter. He's built a product called hunted.space. It basically tracks all the launches every day, every minute. And it basically gives you great charts to see what's going on. And it's been really helpful to see. I think the voting speed gives you another perspective as a derivative, because on product hunt you see how many watts each have, but seeing the pace gives you the information that you can say, oh, like we're slowing down, they're speeding up, we have to do something now. It's another marketing tool. It's great if you can rank there. You need some luck, you need some preparation, but one thing you shouldn't do is just fret over the result you got. Like, I'd love to be number one. It would give us incredible reach. I'm thankful that we are number 3, because it helped us actually reach people we never thought like for Muse Pro. We have apparently an avid user base in Japan and China. I stumbled upon a lot of tweets today searching for Muse Pro, and I interacted with them. They're really enthusiastic about the app, and they need a lot of different features, especially because the language is different.
Yeah.
But that was exciting. Even if you don't make it number 1, it helps you meet new people.
Yeah.
I met you.
No, of course. It's I had somebody who was 5th, and they were saying that they've had customers now who reached out to them, and it was their first ever launch, an indie maker doing it by himself, a 3rd-year student, and he's just went out, decided, I'm going to make this thing. He's went and made it, and then he's got feedback from people all over the world that he could never have spoken to if he'd have spent an extra 6 months or something making it in his dorm room. But whereas now he's got legitimate customers who are prepared to pay him and give him some feedback so he can improve his tool. And it's something I think that Product Hunt and perhaps a few other platforms out there might achieve for people. But the interaction that you have as a founder with people through Product Hunt, I think seems to be quite special, because they're coming along and they're looking for innovative things, and then they're prepared to pay, perhaps look for a discount because you're generous on launch day, launch week, whatever it might be. But then they're going to use your tool, and they're actually people who want to be early adopters as opposed to some other platforms. I had somebody recently very negative of AppSumo, for example, who most of the people that they've ever dealt with were just looking for a bargain, and were never going to, upgrade to anything from their tool, and we're never going to look to buy anything expensive from them. They were just there, as they say in the real estate business, like a tire kicker, coming along, kicking the tires of a car with no intention of ever purchasing it. So it's a fantastic way to get feedback, and I'm glad it's worked out. But you don't know if you're going to be back again for your next launch.
I'll definitely be back. I just don't know when. I'm still recovering, basically.
Maybe a month or so.
Let's say less than a month. Otherwise, I'll get lazy.
Yeah. If you do April the 1st or thereabouts, then you've got a full month to run at Product of the Month.
That's a great idea that we could try now, actually. What happens when we start really early? But I think, especially in the world of AI, everything's moving so fast. People lose interest really quickly. Actually, Dan suggested that we build the wait list for at least 2 weeks. I was a bit hasty about the launch because I think it's incredible. We have to put it out there. I want to interact with people so we move forward based on their needs. I only built the pre-launch page, I guess, a week before our launch. So trying something longer might be useful, but I felt if we waited longer, people would lose interest and maybe would think like we won't launch. It feels like when that information is warm, when you contact people and say, hey, I'm going to need your support, it's best that you do it soon. They follow up on their promise.
Yeah, it makes sense to think that way. But what you've often got from a marketing perspective is somebody might not be ready to purchase a product today. Like 90% of people aren't. Any given time, there's only a handful of people actually in the market. And you can relate it to what you're saying, and what you would look at doing is continue to refresh them. So, have a weekly post about, hey, thanks guys, we're up to 200 upvotes on the wait list, and we've done this. And did you check out the tool yet? Have you tried this? We've got some free credits. Have you shared it? And try to keep refreshing them every week or so that they don't think that you've disappeared, that you keep them lukewarm. And it might be by the time that you get into launch week that they might be tired of seeing you, but they won't forget who you are, and they won't forget you're about to launch. And that type of tactic is something a lot of companies do for pre-launch things, especially larger companies. You might see an advert for a new car, for example, 3, 4, 6 months before they release the car, and it shows you different things about it before they do it. So when the car comes, they've already had people pre-purchase the car before it comes out, and then the day it's done, they're able to advertise it some more.
I absolutely agree, especially in terms of purchasing something. People need at least 3-4 touch points.
Yep.
You have to make them know about what you're doing before you actually present them with the option. I think we can use that strategy, especially when we want to do more launches for Muse Pro.
Yeah.
That's something I want to do because we're adding features. Some of them are going to be big, and we could start building up the hype maybe today. Not today,
Yeah.
but
yeah, it's soon there and after.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, of course. So. What's your plans for your company moving forward? Is it going to be a load of other little tools, or are you looking to build it into its own standalone website and app? How's that going to work?
So the short and midterm plan is that we now have received a great amount of partnership inquiries on both fronts. So we will start actually working with them and connecting all these dots together. I don't think we want to expand with more products. I can't promise that we won't, because we might stumble upon something great. But right now, I feel like it's the time to start shaping up all the pieces together.
Of course. So it's very interesting because you say, oh, I don't think we will. We didn't think you'd make the last one, so it's fine.
No,
It happens. It's very difficult for entrepreneurs. As soon as somebody has an entrepreneurial bug, they'll have ideas, and when you've got the capabilities to make those ideas to come to life, I think it must be a lot more difficult to stay focused. There's ideas that I have in my head, and I say to my tech co-founder, can we make this? You're like, let's finish this first. But you can say maybe a few lines of code each day might get us there. I won't spend too much time on it. And then 4 o'clock in the morning, like, well, I don't need sleep anyway.
Yeah, the sleep is the first thing that goes. And you got it perfectly. That's exactly what happens. When you have the means to do it, it's very hard to resist. Because you see a path through, oh, this could help, this could happen. And if you have to work with someone else, it's difficult to get them on board, convince them. It's easier for them to say no. I find it the most difficult to say no to myself.
Yeah.
What you described happened more than once. 4 o'clock in the morning. Then when you have that, it's easier to bring people on board because they start seeing what you're seeing and they feel like he already built something. Why don't we just build a little bit more on top of it? And there you go. A few weeks have passed. You're doing another launch. But this is the reason why I stopped being an employee and got back into the entrepreneurial world and building my startup. I want to build things. Being employed didn't help. Even when I was employed, I forced my way into becoming something like an entrepreneur in residence. But that wasn't what I was hired for. So it ends up being problematic for both sides. But even though it's financially unstable and risky and worrying, anxiety causing, I take so much pride in what I'm doing. It excites me, it fuels me. So the reason says I should focus and do something, but I really don't want to stop. If I have something amazing in my mind and if I can build it, I want to be able to do it. And hopefully it will pay off in the end and I'll get to do more of this. More sleep, but more of building too.
God, well, I remember watching a short quite a while ago now of Elon Musk being interviewed and asking how was his journey, and he reduced himself to tears because there's parts of his journey where he was sleeping on an office floor and getting 4 hours sleep a night. And you forget sometimes when you're looking at, he's the richest man in the world or whatever he is at the moment, and he had to go through difficult times that every entrepreneur does at the very beginning, where you've got to pay your dues to get to where you want to go. And then later on, people just think, oh, he's always had it easy. He's rich with this, that, and the other. If you were sat with him on this journey, I think you'd let him off with a lot of the taxes and other things you perhaps want to put on him. Let him have a holiday first, then tax him when he gets back, perhaps. But I always think it's interesting when people who've never started a business talk about the prosperity of one once it's established, and they forget, like what you're saying now, of the difficulties along the way.
I think Elon is a great example for this because he's still doing the same thing. Like he goes to sleep, wakes up with the idea like, I'm gonna go to space. He just has the means. Like that's the difference. He still loses sleep. Like he's gonna, oh, space. We've done that. How about we do an electric car? How about we create a ChatGPT competitor? Why not buy Twitter today and see where that goes? I think he still carries the spirit, and that's the top thing that most impresses me about him. I don't think he can help it though. Like it's not a decision; it's built in you.
Yeah, I think you can project a lot of your own. I've got the capability, so let's do it. You might have the financial stress of relinquishing a job that's been paying well, or a good career pathway, but he's still thinking, I've got a couple of billion for this, but I know the share price is going to tank next week because nobody's going to see my vision. But yeah, he's certainly a good example for a lot of people to look up to. Of it's not easy, but you have to put the work in, and as long as you do it and you go each step in the right direction every day, eventually you get to close to where you want to be. Certainly, you won't be where you started from. Have you got anything else you'd like to discuss before we go?
For now, I think that's all. I hope that hasn't been too much. Sometimes it feels like too much, but I'm glad you reached out. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to actually talk about all this because a lot has been going on, and talking about it to someone who's interested is always fun. I'm more curious to actually eventually hearing your thoughts and strategies about how we could scale these. So I'll keep listening.
Yeah, if you want to have a discussion about some things like that, I'd be more than happy to. It's been a pleasure having you. I'll put all the links in the description below. And what I'll do is I'll get this transcribed as well, and I'll put the links on the website too, so it's easy to find.
Yeah, I'm also very active on X, formerly Twitter, and I'm very open to feedback and chatting with other people who are in this journey, are looking into getting into this journey. All channels open.
Blue links always help, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's been a pleasure having you. I think in a few months' time, we'll get you back on to talk about your venture that you're going to start next week that I haven't known you're going to do yet, or perhaps the progress that's been made through the ones you're currently working on.
Yeah, right.
They sound very interesting, and I can see a few people I know who love the solutions you've offered. I hope that they do really well and you can help a lot of people.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'd love to. So that's a deal.
Yeah, well, have a wonderful day ahead, and we'll look forward to speaking to you again soon.
You too. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.